Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Five for Foster, where we ask Norm Foster questions about what he's writing, just about interest pieces in life in general, and a few things about what we're doing here at the festival. And actually, we have a play reading coming up of another new Norm Foster play, a world premiere reading called 1812. And we're going to ask Norm some questions about that today. Hi, Norm. How you doing?
I'm good, Emily. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in
Yeah,
Ontario. I hear the weather's nice in Fredericton as
yeah,
well.
it's great. It's great here too. Yeah, very nice.
That's fantastic. Okay, so here we go. 5 questions about 1812. So, what inspired you to write this play?
Well, living in New Brunswick, the play actually it centers around the first days of the War of 1812, and it's between two communities, St. Stephen, New Brunswick, and Calais, Maine. They're neighboring cities, and they're right across the border from each other. They're separated by a bridge, in fact. And these people who lived in those two cities, towns, were friends, were neighbors. And when the war broke out, they refused to fight. And they didn't want to go to war. In fact, one story, a true story, has it that the Americans in Calais asked to borrow some gunpowder from the Canadians in St. Stephen so they could celebrate their 4th of July. And the Canadians gave them some gunpowder to celebrate the 4th of July. And so the play centers around that time, those first few days of that war, and how we see it takes place in the mayor's home of St. Stephen, his wife, their daughter, and a couple of guys from across the bridge in Calais come to visit. And so the play centers around the interaction between those 5, 6 characters.
That's fantastic. I have read the play. I absolutely love it. I'm really excited about this one, and certainly quite excited about the day when we can do a full production of it, because I think it's going to be
Yeah.
very special one that we're offering here at the Foster Festival. Okay, so question number 2. I believe this is a reworking of a script a little bit, isn't it, Norm, from something originally you wrote with Leslie Arden?
Yeah, originally, and I forget how long ago it was, but I had the idea for the story at least it got to be 10 years ago. And I got my friend Leslie Arden, composer Leslie Arden, great Canadian composer, to write a musical with me about this. So Leslie wrote the music and the lyrics, and I wrote the book. And the thing was, when we wrote it, it was a huge. It had like 21 characters, and so we got it finished. We figured there's no way anybody's going to do this thing up here because there's too many characters. Nobody can afford it. So we put it aside. I put it in the drawer for years until last summer. I decided that I really liked the story a lot, and I wanted to write it, but I'd make it smaller, and I wouldn't make it a musical. I'd just make it like a 5, 6 character. I forget how many characters it is. 6, maybe.
Six, yeah.
Okay. I just make it a 6 character play, and so I called Leslie and I said, "Would you mind if I took our story and just turned it into a play, a 6 character play?" She said, "No, go ahead, it's fine." And so, with her permission, I went ahead and wrote this play, which started as a huge musical, but I really pared it down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me. And so question number 3 along the same lines, how much of the original book is in this version of the play?
Almost none.
Ah,
Almost none. Originally, it's funny how things evolve. Originally, I had the story set in Calais, Maine, and I had the American Army coming up from Boston, and I had a lieutenant in the American Army who was one of the main characters, and there was a love interest with the mayor's daughter in Calais, Maine, and the Canadians were only on the peripheral. They came and visited once in a while. So the whole story changed. I moved the story up into Canada, and I made it. I had a lot more comedy, and so the story is not at all what it originally was. I changed everything.
that's fascinating. I
Yeah.
hope that I can read the original someday. I just so
Yeah,
interested.
I wish I knew where it was. In fact, when I when I decided to write, I called Leslie and said, "By the way, Leslie, do you have a copy of the script?" She said, "No, I don't have it." I didn't have it either, so I had to go back and make it all up again.
Oh, that's hilarious. So in this version now that we have, this newer
Yeah.
version, do you have a favorite moment or a favorite character in 18?
Oh boy, I really like Wallace, who's the father. Is it? I'm sorry about it. Is his name Wallace?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay, his name is Wallace, and because I've written like 7 plays in the last little while,
you
but I
have.
like Wallace because what's happened with Wallace is he's been thrown from a horse a couple of days before the play starts, and so he he forgets things. He forgets his daughter's name, his wife's name. He calls them by different names, and so he's trying to get his memory back during the first few scenes of the play. And he has a guy come across from Calais, Maine, who's a teacher who gives him some instructions on memory, regaining his memory, some exercises to do. So I think he's my favorite character in the play, and because he's also the mayor of the town, and they go to war, and he's trying to avoid that circumstance. But I think my my favorite character might be the maid, whose name is Millicent.
No,
And
Henrietta. Henrietta is the maid.
Henrietta.
Yeah,
See, I don't know the name. Millicent's the wife.
Yes.
Millicent's the wife. So Henrietta is the maid, and she only has a few scenes, but she's very strong and very irreverent.
Yes.
And I really like her because she's taken on, because the Canadian family has had to fire let some of their staff go because they don't have any money. And so Henrietta is the one remaining staff member, and she's going to do all the work now. Is it Henrietta?
Yes.
Yeah, Henrietta.
Yeah.
She's going to do all the work now. So, and she's a little annoyed at that. She has to answer the door. She's got to cook. She's got all this stuff. So, yeah, I really like her as the comic relief character.
Yes, and in this version of the reading that we'll be doing, it's being Henrietta is being played by Mari Bob, a wonderful actor that we both know. Okay, so who's directing this is Jim Mizon, actually. And so, have you worked with Jim before?
I worked with Jim before. I worked with Jim's wife, Catherine McGregor, before I even met Jim. I did a show with Catherine years ago at Theatre Aquarius, acted in a play called it was called Strawberries in January. That's where I first met Catherine, and then I met Jim through Catherine. And then a couple of years ago at the Foster Festival, Jim directed Hilda's Yard.
Yes.
So I worked with Jim in that show, and that was really a nice experience. And of course, Jim didn't Jim direct one of the scenes from A Christmas Tree?
Oh, he was in that with Catherine. They did that.
Oh, he did that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Jim's an old friend, a great actor and director. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're thrilled to have Jim working with us again. So last question number 5. You live in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Have you ever spent any time in Calais, Maine? Have you been there before?
I have been to Calais, Maine. I've been to St. Stephen. I haven't, actually, I should say, I drove through Calais, Maine, and I'd spent some time in St. Stephen, New Brunswick. St. Stephen, as I recall, used to be on the TNB Theatre New Brunswick tour, and we played there. But yeah, it's very nice towns, and they're almost identical. They're very, very nice towns, and great people, and so I have spent time in both those towns. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Norm. That's our 5 questions for today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Great. Thank you.